Welcome back to Story Deep Dive with Dana and Rachel. Y'all, this is a podcast with book coaches, editors, and besties as we talk about books, and not books as readers, even though we are huge readers, but we're talking about them as writers so that we can draw inspiration from great books and laughs. And as you're seeing over this sort of mesh of our look back over 2025 in December, we have a whole lot of laughs and shenanigans. Okay. As long as our editor does not cut them out. Okay.
The editor never cuts out the laughs and shenanigans. She sure does not. Let me tell you.
So, as we get into this episode, this is our final episode of 2025. And so I wanted to sort of just look at our titles that we've had over this year. If you're just joining us, you have 11 books that you can go back and just gobble up. If you've been here the whole time, thank you for riding it out with us. And I hope you are as excited as we are for 2026. As I'm looking at my list, y'all, literally on my screen. So we started off the year with Ninth House. Then we read, listen, you made Rachel have to tell us the author's name because you know I'm not going to butcher. So Ninth House.
Lee Bardugo.
Then we went to Things We Never Got Over.
Lucy Score.
Okay. Then we did Dead Until Dark.
Charlene Harris.
Now, what I absolutely love is those three books, you already see how Rachel and I roll. If you ever needed to know, just do those three books in order. Then I guess I could, listen, then we had The Whistleblower.
Which nearly killed Dana. Almost did her in. By Robert Peston, by the way.
And then we had Indigo, which is one of my all-time in-life favorite books by Beverly Jenkins. And then we had Cold and Deadly. And we haven't talked a lot about Cold and Deadly in these sort of recap episodes. But Cold and Deadly to me is one of those ones, especially if you want to do a romantic suspense, like a true romantic suspense. That is a great one. Great one to have on your list. Then we did One for the Money, which... we've been talking about doing that book for years. I don't think we ever read that book together.
Yeah, correct.
We did Beautifully Cruel, which is one of my favorite books and one of my picks. Then that slid us into Sin and Chocolate with the Demigods of San Francisco, K.F. Breen. Then we had The Woman at the Library, which I think of all of your picks, I think next to Ninth House, I think The Woman in the Library would be my second top pick of yours.
Yeah.
And then our final pick for 2025 that we read was Twisted Love. And y'all, we literally have gone the gamut. Like we've gone from rom-com-y, small town, grumpy sunshine, to really skating a little bit into dark romance, having a crime, having Ninth House is its own genre, just say Ninth House. Yeah. and so I think what happened is we've had a really great year of having both equal parts, your picks, my picks, our picks. But what I found really interesting for me is it felt, well, first we picked him intentionally, but it felt intentional.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you think about the way some of the characters were braided, the way some of the plots were threaded, and as we went along throughout the year, even some of the books, when you look at the earlier picks versus the latter picks, it's almost like we sort of laid the foundation with some that was dead on, and then we sort of blossomed from there. And so I would love to sort of start the conversation with, what are some of the things that really rise to the top for you for 2025 as we close out this final episode of our first season of podcasting?
Yeah. So when you say rise to the top, do you mean in terms of the way that it progressed, experiences, or all of the above? Do you have something specific in mind?
Whatever floats your boat. This is we're here with you.
Perfect. All right. Okay.
All of it.
I have the mic. Okay. Here it goes. It's funny because when we chose the books, it was intentional, like you said, but it wasn't like I wasn't thinking like, oh, okay, I know, we'll do this kind of crime and then we'll mix it up with a murder mystery. Like I wasn't thinking about it in those terms. I was just thinking, what is a variety of books that we could explore this season and read, and that I liked and that I think would be helpful to writers. But it turned into like being able to really kind of like delineate these different subsets of genres and kind of like, okay, here's a full crime novel, here's something more like a murder mystery, and then Ninth House kind of somewhere in the middle, and we got our fantasy picks in, and also got a lot of some like paranormal romance, and it became this really great opportunity of like getting to compare and contrast throughout the year. And that's something that I think is a really useful exercise. So last week I was talking about, look back at the books that you read this year. Like, what were the books that you loved? What were the books that didn't work for you? What were the characters that stood out to you? And then ask yourself why, right? Like, those are really important questions, especially as a writer. As a reader, it can help you find books that you like, can help you talk more effectively about books with other people. But as a writer, those whys really matter, because it matters for you to be able to achieve whatever effect you're looking to achieve or not achieve, like what you don't want your book to be like. But then also in that process, I think comparing and contrasting the books that you read, right? Like looking for the similarities, and when you're asking about the things that you loved or the things that didn't work, and looking for, okay, well, and I'll do this with my clients all the time, right? We read all kinds of books, and they might be like, okay, well, I didn't really like the main male character in this book. And then we'll look at another book where they did like the main male character. I'm like, okay, why are these two different? They're both alpha males. Why don't you like this one versus this one? What's rubbing you the wrong way? And those questions can be really helpful, right? For like finding like, okay, here's what I'm looking to do. Here's what I'm looking to achieve. And again, it's a really wonderful way to reflect on your experience of reading throughout the year. And that has been unexpectedly wonderful this year, like in the experience of podcasting, because when we do the episodes, we by design they're self-contained, because it's like we're going to talk about this book, then we're going to talk about this book, but we found so often that in talking about one book, we couldn't help but reach back to that other book, because the contrast or the similarities was telling us something about the book that we were currently reading, and giving us a reference point for where things are parallel, where they deviate, where they are, adjacent or perpendicular or whatever. And that was sort of like an unexpectedly great part of the podcast, and the picks that we had and the way that they unfolded, because of the way that those conversations were actually able to inform each other, which is why I think reading wide and reading deep both, is such, it's not just an asset to use a writer. Like, I think it just makes life more interesting. Like, it's just interesting to experience books from lots of different authors and have lots of different experiences, and then be able to measure those experiences and talk about why you liked them, why you didn't, what it taught you, new things that you didn't think that you would like, that you like, that you're like, oh, actually, I really enjoy this, that's been a really, really cool part of 2025, of like the way that the individual books, when you take them as a part of the whole of like the season, how they actually work together and how they help to inform each other and inform the conversation.
I agree. I think I would expand that conversation. I think one of the things that I love is it shows the benefits of being well read. Right? Yeah. Because what you can start doing is you start thinking about this character like, oh, wow, we talked about Knox. There's a difference in Knox's grump than Lem's grump.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, what is it? How did they show up in a room? How do they command attention? What were some of the things that evidenced that, where it was an objective thing that we could point to? Oh, this shows us who he is. And having access to that sort of information in your thought process on your bookshelves, it really does help you to both ensure that you're in the pocket of what you're doing, but
Yeah.
also gives you some resources to push, right? To just go outside of that. In one of the previous episodes, you were talking about the woman in the library, how it was sort of an honorable mention for a cast. And one of the things that I thought when we read that book, that I think that was one of the books where, to me, the plot almost overshadowed the characters for me. Not in a bad way, but they were so entwined that I really didn't think about characters as a separate thing.
Yeah.
But to me, that is even more of it's like it's equally as important when you think of another book like Knock 'Em Out, where almost all you think about is characters. You almost have to force yourself to think about the plot, other than her being a runaway bride. And so knowing that, I think sometimes when we consider ourselves as writers and creatives, like we forget that there are things about the actual experience of writing that informs how we interpret story and how we digest story. And so I think having the selections that we had, and not being in charge of the selections, it meant that you just like, listen, buy the book, buckle up.
Yeah.
You're in for a penny, in for a pound. And so I found those very helpful. I think also as we move forward, and we just found that it's almost like having a shared language.
Yeah.
Because we were building on something that we didn't realize we were building on. We just thought we were progressing in time.
Yeah.
Right. But we were building on the thing. And so I think that was just dope. And so the fact that it happened, and we just were picking our choices individually, while still having some consideration of the other. But I think us picking them individually, I think, made it even better.
And trusting ourselves to each other of like, all right,
oh my gosh,
you're my friend. Here we go.
Are you my friend? Are you my friend?
It got called into question a couple of times this year, but we made it through. We're still here, and there's 22. We are still doing a podcast in 2026, so we made it out okay.
and we're still friends, and so I feel like it makes me feel really excited about continuing, especially because it's a huge commitment. And it makes me excited to have more writers that are listening and on this journey with us, and more committed to reading more.
Yeah.
And allowing themselves to read things that they didn't select, so that they can still get something from it.
Yeah.
And so with that said, I told you I was going to tease this out, but I'm really curious. Y'all now listen. We have probably picked like 80 to 85% of our books for 2026.
Oh, yeah.
So, i.e., it's not too late. You can put in your suggestions. I don't mean we're going to pick it, but you can put in your suggestions. I'm really curious about what book you are excited about reading. Well, I'm going to say two, and it could be the same book. Two questions. One, what is a book you're excited about reading? And what is a book that you are excited about having on the list for us to read?
Ooh. Okay. Ooh, this is gonna be tough. Okay.
Yes, I know.
You know what?
That's why
I'm gonna go a little out of pocket with the book that I'm excited to read. And that is gonna be The Christmas Fix by Lucy Score. Our Christmas
really
book. Yeah, I'm really curious to, I loved Knock 'Em Out. I'm really curious about her other work, because I have books of hers on my list that I would like to read, because I wanted to, since I liked Knock 'Em Out, I was like, oh, I'm very curious about her other work. I haven't gotten around to reading any of them because my TBR is so full of other books that more imminently need to be read. And so I'm quite curious, and I'm excited to read like a seasonal book, like a Christmas special. I think Lucy Score, I'm guessing she could do it without being too Hallmark, without it feeling too Hallmarky, but still feeling, I think she has a good sense of humor. I think it's steamy, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But not like it's, pretty much like things we never got over.
Yeah, so like standard, it's steamy, but like standard steamy nonetheless.
Yeah, slow burn. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's just like, that's something in a, like, these are characters I've never met before. And so getting to see like more of Lucy Score's work, I'm just looking forward to that. And also, I am very, like, I love the holiday season. Like, I love being festive. I love decorating. Like, it's such a special time of year. I love leaning all the way into it. So getting to read, like, a Christmas, like, festive book, that is like, oh, hell yeah. Like, I am here for the Christmas spirit. Let's go. So, yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to reading that one. The one that I'm excited that's on, like, to have on the list is going to be Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. Yeah, I was like, I feel like there's no way that there's like a surprise about that. But you know, I think I love it as a sequel. I love the concept that Leigh Bardugo works with in this story. I love the characters of the Ninth House series. I think that they're just so distinct. And in Hellbent, we get to see more of them. We get to watch them grow, and we get to watch them interact more with each other, like a lot more. And they spent, you know, we're getting even more time with those characters, and we're getting to know those characters even better. Like, we get another layer deeper of those characters, and I'm really excited for that experience. I mean, it's literally, if you're watching on the YouTube, I don't know if you can see actually, you can't see it anymore, but Hellbent is like one of like my display books. So that's what I'm really, really excited to have on the list. Which this has been so fun. Again, we talked about this last time, but we're kind of like spoiling some of our picks for 2026, but I love it because it's like there's a lot to look forward to. But again, it's not always easy to like speed through a book like in a month, or in this case, actually, normally we only give you a week because we announce it at the end of the episode, and then it's like the next week it's out. So this is like giving you a chance to start, like, you know, get ahead on your reading list. What about you? What is a book you're looking forward to reading, and a book that you're just excited is on the list?
Okay, I'm gonna say. Oh, okay. The one that I am excited about reading Hellbent, especially because of what you've told me so far. I don't know if I'm going to regret being excited, but I am right now.
It's good. We're going to take that. For right now, we're going to take that.
Mainly because you love it so much, and I love it because you love it, so I just got to suck it up, buttercup. So that, and I really did like Ninth House. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm almost certain I'm going to read Ninth House again so that I can remember, because, you know, I've only read it twice. So that's so Hellbent. The one that I'm excited, I have two. Oh. The one that I'm excited about having on the list is Before I Let Go.
Yeah.
I love being able to add an African American romance.
Yeah.
It feels very much like an African American nostalgia sort of vibe. Easy read, emotional, very emotional. But it's a really great book. Like, once you start it, you will not be able to stop. So Kennedy Ryan does a great job with that story. And then my honorable mention is Tempt Me at Twilight. Tempt Me at Twilight is one of my favorite books. Like, right up there with Indigo, which I'm always so surprised by that, because they're both historical romances. And so the fact that we have that on our list, and we have another historical romance, it actually is really surprising me, because this is the second historical romance I put on the list.
Yeah. I normally when we talk about romance outside of like Beverly Jenkins and Indigo, I actually haven't heard you talk a lot about historical romance. Like, it just, like, it hasn't come up a lot, and maybe it's also because of like the clients that you know work with, and you don't write historical romance, so it just doesn't come up as often. But I was surprised that we were getting another historical romance. You said this is Regency, right?
Yes, and this was one of the ones where it's the series. I love this series. It's like I think it's called the Wallflower series, I think, or something. It's sisters. And so I think it's like 4 or 5 sisters that we're following. And so, but this is another one of those where I realized I just like grumpy alpha male characters, because it's
Yeah.
another one. But he's
Yes.
like, it's like before you got to, I mean, this book is, I don't know how old it is, but it's an older book. And so knowing that it was before it was super popular to
Yeah.
have that sort of main male character, and it's in the historic context when you have limitations on what women are supposed to do and not do, and picking the woman that most people wouldn't pick because of her being almost considered eccentric sort of vibe. It's one of my favorite books. It's one of my favorite books. So
I'm
those are the
excited
ones.
about
Like
that one.
yeah. I just feel like I was like, okay, we want to have a little bit of variety. We got some variety. I'm still bringing the heat with the romance, but yeah, but I think we got some great ones.
Yeah, I actually, Tempts Me at Twilight was one I was curious about as well, like seeing it on the list, because I've not read a Regency romance before. And so I'm kind of looking forward to, I think one of the things I'm particularly interested in, I don't know if it's going to come up, but is the way that the author handles the historical research and layering in, because Beverly Jenkins did it fantastically, right? She did so much research, and had done historically, right, so much research that she was able to bring to the page. And so I'm very curious about how, you said Kennedy Ryan is the name that you said?
No, Kennedy Ryan is, before I let go. This one is, her name is, oh Lord, Lisa I can't, it's Kleypas. I do not know how to pronounce it.
Oh, I'm gonna have to
Yeah, look it up. Yes, exactly. I believe that when you read this, that you will actually like it. I think it will be something that you will like. It's almost like you get equal parts of like a good romance that has a lot of other things sort of going on, like almost like a good fiction, because they usually are bringing in, cultural context. It's not as much as what we will see in like a Beverly Jenkins, but I think that's what makes Beverly Jenkins different. But she tends to bring in things like technology that was there, cultural norms, things that we kind of get a taste of when you think about, like Pride and Prejudice, or and things like that. But it's more so of like, what were the limitations of like on women, and what were the expectations, and how they're basically pursuing love, differences in classes. And I just think you're gonna love it. I love it so much.
I'm
excited. And then Kennedy Ryan is contemporary. It's just straight contemporary African American romance. And I think the thing that you're gonna find interesting about that is that the main couple, they're divorced.
Yeah, I remember, because you've talked to me about this book before. Like, it's come up in conversation, and I remember that detail in particular. So that would make it a second chance romance, yeah?
That's right, a real second chance.
Cool. That's exciting. I'm really looking forward. Honestly, I'm looking forward to like the picks that we have on the docket. So I'm going to be really curious to see how the historical romance is sort of like how that's handled, and just again how the research is sort of like folded in. But I like a story where there's multiple layers of things going on. And it just gives it that lift and that additional drive. And it's fun, I think, too, because we've got two sequels, which I think is going to be really neat to be able to have sequels in our list of like what we discussed this year, book one, and then getting to discuss book two in 2026 from a couple of these picks. And just the opportunity to get to talk about how a book two functions in a series, and what it brings, and what the requirements on a book two are. Like, there's so many things to talk about in a book two, where so many of the principles are going to be the same as book one, of like how the story structure and all of that, but because it's positioned within a series, and we're not talking about the beginning of the series, but in the case of Hellbent, the middle of a series. In the case of Sin and Magic, that's really we're still at the beginning, but it's the next book. But I think that's going to be some really, really interesting conversation that we haven't gotten to have yet, because we did all book ones and standalones.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting now that you say that both of them did not have hard cliffhangers either. I think that plays a big part in how you feel about it, especially when you think about 9000 Hellbent. You didn't know when the other book was coming because it's more trad. And I don't know if The Demigods of San Francisco was traditionally published originally. I think they are published now, and I think, but don't quote me on that.
Oh,
but I think the fact that they're not, neither had like a hard, like make you upset, angry, angering readers, sort of cliffhanger, and I think that makes a huge difference. I also feel like the circumstances were different. I think the circumstances where we left off were strong enough to pull us forward, but it did feel for Sin and Chocolate like there was a little bit of resolution, like a little bit of relief, but there's still more to come. But and for Ninth House, it felt like, oh dang, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, it was like it resolved the primary plot of the book, but it was kind of cool because we found out that this plot thread was actually a loose thread that wasn't finished, and that's how we sort of were able to springboard in preparing for the next book, which is nice because I think it gives you almost a little bit of a cliffhanger feeling, but without feeling like you got cheated by a cliffhanger, because the actual story of the book still resolved, but there's this thread that kind of pops out that is oh, there's still more on this thread, and then we're going to follow that into the next book, which is actually the same thing happens with Hellbent as well. So it's sort of this interesting thing that she does where she resolves the main story but then leaves this sort of loose thread that becomes the springboard for the next book.
Yeah, but if you think about it, it's almost the same in Sin and Chocolate. We know it's there.
Yeah.
It's not in the forefront because it's not the most pressing, but we already are aware of it, and we already are invested in it, and we know how important it is to at least one of the protagonists.
Yeah.
So that helps. Yeah. And that may be one of those things that for everyone listening, you want to hang your hook on, right? When you think about writing a series with the same romantic couple, the way that we find in The Demigods of San Francisco, and also especially if you're doing something like a trilogy.
For sure.
Awesome. So with that said, as we get ready to round out this final episode of 2025, first of all, if you are new here, what's up and welcome. If you have been here with us, thank you so much for riding with us as we have dealt with tech. We have figured out what we were doing with the recording and editing and getting notes up and all of this stuff. I think we are almost a well-tuned machine now as far as how we are doing it, and we're absolutely loving it. We will ask you to don't forget to rate, comment, leave your questions, recommend us to your reading friends and your writing friends, because we have much more in store for 2026. With that said, is there any final parting words that you'd like to share regarding 2025 before we close out?
No, ma'am. I would just like to echo your thanks to everybody who has spent 2025 in our sort of weird little book club that we've had here, which is a very eclectic book club. 2026 is going to be a really, really good year. Don't forget that Mistborn is our January pick, so be sure to pick up a copy. You can get an ebook, audiobook, paperback, hardcover, special edition hardcover. You can get all kinds of versions of Mistborn. So be sure to pick up a copy and get excited, because literally next week, when you're listening to this, next week we'll be back at it for January. So thank you guys so much for sharing in 2025 with us, and look forward to 2026.
Well, y'all, I guess the final thing that I'll say, I'm absolutely loving doing this with my bestie. Thank you all so much for joining us. This is a labor of love, right? And we look forward to the picks and everything that we have in store for 2026. And we just want you along for the journey. And I'm looking forward to it because I know I'm being stretched. Okay. I don't know about you. Maybe you clutching your pearls, but I'm being stretched. I'm looking forward to not just sharing the books, but any insight that makes you excited about writing your book, any things that we talk about in the plot or the characters that have you sort of running to the page or getting aha moments that fill gaps of understanding, or things that you didn't know before. Maybe even seeing stories that you've read before, but you didn't see it quite the way that we did. Because I think that is one of the joys of reading and doing it in community.
Absolutely.
And so we just have more of it coming. So you know what? As Rachel likes to say, raise your hands or scream loud if you want to go faster.
Scream if you want to go faster. Woo!
I will never say that right, but that's what I meant.
In our hearts, Dan and I both are like, hit the brakes, hit the brakes.
Damn brakes. Oh my gosh. So with that said, thank you so much for joining us for the 2025 season of a Story Deep Dive with Dana and Rachel. We will see you in 2026, Lord's will, with our first pick of the year, which is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. If you did not know, Rachel's up to bat again.
Brace yourselves, it's like 600 pages. It's going to be good.
Exactly. Who keeps letting her pick the books? This is all.
The audience is looking at you, Dana. They're like, Dana, you let this happen. This happened on your watch.
Listen, don't come for me unless I send for you, okay? That's what I'd be like. Listen, she my bestie. We gonna do it. door stopper and all. So with that said, y'all, we are out. We did not say this. I hope that you had a fantastic holiday season, that everything is well in your world, and we will see you all next week for our overview of Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. So with that said, we are out. Take care, and as always, happy writing. Goodbye.